So this, my friends, is the on the table review of the Gentemstick Spoonfish 152. It's been a long time since I've been on this before. A lot of cameras, a lot of equipment, a lot of boards have gone through the Good Ride office / studio since I've last ridden this, and it was really good to get back on it. It's you know, one of my favorite boards in Gentem's line. You know, this, the Manta Ray, the Stingray, just really have a great appeal for the way I ride and the way a lot of us at the Good Ride ride. And I think it matches up with a wide variety of, you know, more directional riding styles. It's a smaller board. You can see kind of like this 152 isn't really that short and fat. It's only like a little over 30 in the nose, coming down to like, I think like 27.2 in the tail, which is really, you know, really small in the tail. And then, you know, the waist is only like 25.2. So it's definitely not for the bigger rider. It's for a smaller foot. I wish they made a bigger version of this because it's just so cool. Maybe they do. There's so many different Gentem boards. Maybe there's one that's close to it, but who knows for sure. I don't. I've only ridden a few Gentem, probably like, I don't know, like 8 Gentemsticks, and there's like however many on the site. It's like you can just constantly adventure through and just keep checking different boards. It's just like a stream of consciousness over 20 years of just different cool ideas. But you can see it's pretty Setback on board. It's only like 30 on side cut, 30 millimeters, but on board you can see there's a lot more. Lots of taper, lots of, you know, lots of fork in the tail. And you can see that there's a little bit of camber kind of underfoot that kind of just slowly goes down into kind of almost like a flat section that rises up when you press down. But there's a lot of nose going on here and very minimal tail. So it's kind of a cool board. You've got, this is interesting, Gentemstick does this. You've got 6 inserts, 6x2 in the front and 5x2 in the back, because they want your back foot in a certain place over the camber, it seems like. And they do this with a lot of Gentemstick boards. Sometimes they have only 4 and 6 or 5 and 6 or whatever, because there's a certain way a lot of Gentemstick and like Moss and Gentemstick and a lot of companies like that have just a smaller amount of inserts because they want you to ride this board a certain way. So let's get into, you know, the Setback on board here. Let's just talk about stance ranges. The widest you can go with this with normal bindings is 22.5, and the narrowest you can go is 18.5. So what I want to do now is just kind of talk about 2 different things. The difference when set all the way back at 20 inches, which is about right for this kind of board. This is a board you want to ride a little narrower. We'll talk about the difference between nose and tail. You know, the setback between nose and tail and the actual setback on board. So coming down to here, gosh, you're looking at just about 25 3/4. Yeah, it's kind of between 25 3/4 and 26. We'll just say 26. And then we can kind of measure 2 ways here. Let's do both. And then we're looking at just about, we're looking about 13 3/4 and 26. So we'll do a little math here. We're looking at 12.25 inches difference between nose and tail, and then the true setback on board is 6.125 inches, which is pretty massive. And then, you know, from here, which isn't really accurate, you know, you're looking at 7 versus 26. So let's talk about that. You're looking at 19 inches. And then, you know, you're looking at 9.5 inches back on board, which is really far for a 152. But it's kind of more like this. You know, you get a lot of this tail comes into play, so maybe it's kind of somewhere in between there, but that's really cool. And that's why, even though this was such a small board, it really like was hanging in there against, like, not outshining, not better than the Chaser high performance that I was riding in powder the same day as this. It wasn't beating it out in any way, but it was hanging in there. Like, I was stoked riding the Chaser. It just floated so easy in the thick Pacific Northwest, you know, snow. And then I got on this and I was like, well, okay, we'll give it a try. We'll see what happens. And then it just floated like a champ for what it was. I thought it was going to suck coming from the Chaser, but I actually did a pretty good job. And you can see there's just a nice all black base with just a little dot in the nose there. And it's so fast and so repairable. It's got such smooth glide. It's really, these Gentem bases, I know there's only a few different types of bases made out there in the world, but whatever they're doing to this, however this came to me, and all the other Gentem bases I've ever tried, they just have a glide to them that's just exceptional. So this Spoonfish is hard to recommend just because of its size in the US. There aren't a lot of people that this fits really well, because it definitely is for a smaller rider. But if you're one of those riders, this might be, you know, if this fits your specs, this might be a really fun solution. And it's right up there as one of my, like, favorite and most recommendable boards in Gentem's line with, like, you know, the Manta Ray 156. Although this just doesn't fit the same kind of, you know, rider specs. It's definitely better for a smaller rider.